Okay, in this video I'm just going to take a look at how is personal injuries compensation calculated in Ireland. What are the factors which go into the award of compensation or the assessments? You will see from time to time what appear to be very large awards for what appear to be relatively inconsequential injuries, but you really do need to know all of the details before you could make any reasonable, rational judgment. So we'll have a look at that anyway, and how the amount of personal injury compensation is arrived at. Firstly, you must understand that in Ireland there's a situation with the setting up by the government a number of years ago of the Personal Injuries Assessment Board. It's commonly known as the Injuries Board. Virtually all personal injury claims in Ireland must firstly be submitted to the Injuries Board. The exception, or one of the exceptions, would be a medical negligence claim. The Injuries Board then is tasked with carrying out an assessment. And this assessment is really a monetary sum that they will arrive at and calculate to compensate the injured party for the injuries. The assessment then will be broken down into two broad categories. One is general damages and one is special damages. The general damages are based on the Book of Quantum, which is available on the Injuries Board website. The general damages are essentially aimed at compensating you for the pain and suffering of the injury that you've suffered. The other broad category of damages would be special damages. These would be out-of-pocket expenses. For example, the medical report, any loss of earnings, loss of wages, any medicines, pills, physiotherapy, doctors' fees, doctors' visits, hospital bills, and so on. The critical thing in the Injuries Board arriving at the assessment amount is essentially the medical report. In the first instance, the person who's making the claim, the claimant, will submit a medical report with their application. However, the Injuries Board then may send the person, the claimant, to one of their own doctors in order to have an assessment carried out before they finally issue what they consider to be a fair compensation for the injuries. If the Injuries Board assessment is not accepted by either the claimant or the respondent, well then legal proceedings will have to follow, and the Injuries Board will issue a letter of authorisation which allows you to bring legal proceedings in the courts. This is started by way of a personal injury summons. Compensation then in a negligence case, and a personal injury claim is essentially a negligence case because the claimant is claiming that they've suffered an injury due to the negligence of the respondent. But compensation in such cases is aiming to restore the plaintiff to the position they would have been in had the negligence or tort or civil wrong not been committed. This is not always possible, however. For example, the loss of a limb can never be reversed, and clearly a court in awarding damages is going to have to do what they can in terms of a monetary sum, but nobody can, reverse the loss of a limb. Compensation by the court then, well, general damages, as I said, is to compensate for pain and suffering, loss of amenity, and loss of expectation of life, loss of quality of life. The pain and suffering can include physical and psychiatric or psychological injury or pain, and it can also take account of the loss of quality of life. It can also take account of past and future suffering. Special damages then, just like with the Injuries Board assessment, these are out-of-pocket expenses, loss of earnings, etc. So you're going to have a figure basically for past loss of earnings and future loss of earnings depending on the injury. If the injury is not that serious, then past loss of earnings may be easy enough to quantify and ascertain. The claimant may have made a full recovery, they are back at work, and there's no future loss of earnings expected. However, if the injury is much more serious and affects the future loss of earnings, well then that must be taken into account by the court, and the claimant may need an actuary to prepare a report for future loss of earnings. My name is Gorry. I'm a solicitor in Enfield. Personal injuries is one area of law that I do. I do employment as well, business, family, road traffic, all types of general law. And I have a YouTube channel which you might be interested in subscribing to, and if you find this video useful, you might give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching.